Good morning and welcome, Conscious Warriors. It's a beautiful morning in Brisbane, Australia. Welcome to Monday morning, and for those in the Northern Hemisphere, I hope you're having a beautiful Sunday night. It's great to be here with you this morning. If you're here for the first time or for class, when you come into class, say good day. It's great to be with you. Today we're going to I'm going to share with you some personal information because yesterday I went from waking up from a nightmare to a mega migraine exploding in my head to having a minor migraine and making it to gym, and then last night dealing with somebody in group who was very stressful. And I've woken up this morning feeling on top of the world. So I want to be able to share with you some of the internal processes that I've built into my life in order that when my body is releasing stress from the past, I can continue to move through it in order that I don't lose many days of productivity. Now, our Conscious Warrior tribe, which is worldwide, we like to remember the silent majority who are dealing with mental health challenges. So hit like and subscribe depending on what channel you're on, and share so that it goes global for those who still are wandering and wondering, what's my one next step? We have a real heart to help many, many people around the world because we know that everyday complex PTSD is impacting individuals globally. And because we are right at the forefront of everything in complex PTSD, we're right at the forefront of delivering to you neuroscience information that comes forward, personal development that we need to do, relationships, and how we manage self-care, and so much more, that we like to reach out to those around the world who've yet to be able to join into our community and know that they're not alone. Okay, it's so important that our first one step is to be in with a group of people where we're safe, and we're safe to connect, and so that we can begin to feel safe to connect internally and not have to do things like self-abandon and so much more. Good morning, beautiful ladies. Yes, not a problem at all. Thanks to all the beautiful love that we have in our group. It's just like amazing. And I love you all so much, and I appreciate you eternally for all the love that we share in group together. Good morning. How are you? Let me know how you're all going. Are you having a wonderful weekend? Okay, so I just want to start this morning off with what happened around me getting the mega migraine, because my descent into hell on earth of losing my entire life, being bedridden for over 2.5 years, began with migraines. Migraines that would come and not disappear, and I was having 30 milligram morphine injections every third day and not able to get rid of them. I mean, I understand now why it happened, but that's a whole other chat show. And so I worked through and did a lot of my work, so I don't suffer from them anymore. And I got down to the stage where I could take 2 Nurofen or 2 Panadol. Nurofen I take because it's good to open up the blood vessels and everything, get rid of the pain. So yesterday I got a migraine, which is so rare. Oh, that's fantastic, Diana. That I was, first of all, shocked, but I went into, like, let's get this happening, let's get this fixed and sorted. So what happened was I had a nightmare. I literally woke up from a nightmare, and Nick and I were going to go to gym together. And Nick came in, and I'd sat up on bed. I said, I just don't think I can go this morning. And he said, that's okay. And he must have seen something in my face, and he just sat beside me and started putting his hand on my back. And I'm like, I've just had the worst dream, the worst nightmare. And I said, it's not about the details of the nightmare. It was about seeing the progression of the nightmare, where everyone went on and connected, and in my life there was this big disconnect. This is in the dream, okay? There was this big disconnect where I didn't know how to go forward. I didn't know what to do next. I wasn't comfortable with what was happening in my life in the dream. And I just said to Nick, it was just dreadful. And it was like giving me that awareness of the disconnect that can happen for us when we are children, okay? When there's no emotional nourishment when we are children. And it was very, very painful, to say the least. So, you know, if you've not read The Body Keeps the Score, get hold of it and just read 1 page a day, because it really helps us unpack what's happening for us internally. So then the disconnection in the dream, as I reflected on it more, showed me how terrified I was as a child of losing the known adults in my life. And then as I began to further examine what was happening, I could see how my thought processes developed from childhood into adulthood of, well, I'm just going to have to settle for whoever's around or whatever job's around. Anything in life, I'm just going to have to settle. It was this whole stream of consciousness that came to the forefront, that I'm just going to have to settle, okay? And then what happened was I could see that this belief has traveled through a lot of my life, that disconnection would mean I can't have what's best for me. So think of the current saying of, you know, I should live my best life. So for me, it came down to, well, if I can't have what's best for me, I don't deserve to be alive, to live, to connect with others, because connection brings us alive, okay? There's life in connecting with each other. We are not wired to do life alone. And so it never ceases to amaze me how our body-brain connection holds on to these beliefs and the impact that they'll have in our day-to-day life. So because of that, think of complex trauma and how it's impacted our life, and how instead of turning towards connection and connecting with others, life has felt so unsafe that we feel more safe on our own, okay? And that's a misnomer, because we're not actually safe on our own. We're not healthy on our own. We're wired to connect, okay? So I spoke to Nick briefly about what I discovered, and then I fell asleep again, all right? And the body and brain both need time to shift when all this inner healing happens. We need time. So it's not just about me conscious here right now. It's about our whole body and brain shifting into the awareness of now, and that I'm safe now. I don't have to hold on to that stress in my body anymore. I can let go of the belief that I'm not safe, and I can let go of the belief that I need to disconnect, all right? Or the belief that I'm not safe to connect, all right? So a lot of abandonment happened in my childhood years, in my formative years, that back then, we didn't even know that these types of things would impact the brain development of children, all right? So it's not about going back to the past. It's about us taking hold of building ourselves up and knowing ourselves and knowing how not to abandon ourselves, knowing the brain processes that drive everything internally, because once we recognize them in our day-to-day life, we can actually overcome them and turn them around. So when I woke later in the afternoon, as I woke up, I went, I really feel alive internally. I still have this minor migraine, but I can feel, it's like feeling the life force within me, the strength, and going, yeah, I want to go to gym. And I was sitting there going, oh my goodness, this is insane. I had this mega migraine this morning, yet here I am saying I feel like I'm being driven with life. I feel alive and I want to go to gym. And so I said to Nick, want to go to gym? Let's go, he says. And I went, okay. I said, I'm still in pain, but I'm going to go, and I'll be slow getting ready. But I might only last 15 minutes, but I want to go. I want to try. I want to have a go at getting dressed and getting out of the house, even though my head is still in pain. Good morning, Suzanne. So then we did. And I actually made it through 35 minutes at gym on the bike, breathing, being conscious of my breath. And when I got there, the most incredible thing happened. I'm sitting on the bike and I just felt so full of life. I was like, yes, let's do this. Now, one of the things I teach everyone is trauma-informed movement, because when we've lived with hypoarousal all our life, we need to retrain our mind that we're safe to breathe, take deep breaths in. And it works. It just works. Everyone who does trauma-informed movement, or TIM as we call it for short, they will tell you it works. And you don't know it works till you do it and stop, and then you realize how much it has worked in your life. So what I wanted to share with you this morning is some of the processes that I've done over the years in order that I was able to do yesterday and reclaim my health, even though I was unwell. Because this has been one of my bugbears, if you will, is that with complex PTSD, and dissociation especially, can wipe us out for days at a time and we don't even know it. So I just need some water. Okay, so one of the most important things for us to wrap our mind around is our sense of self is actually, I say our brain's full of apps, and we need all the apps working for our brain to be fully working. And it's not like we can, some of them we can reboot, but other ones we actually have to develop because they weren't fully developed in our childhood. Okay, so one of the apps that wasn't developed in our childhood is our sense of self. Now, the abandonment recovery course in the Conscious Warrior Academy is what I developed because it helps keep me internally aware of what my brain is triggering. And it helped me understand how I needed to develop my sense of self, my identity, who I am, as opposed to who I had to be all my life in order to manage or to feel safe in myself to get through my family and so much more. Okay, now abandonment recovery is necessary so we can break the cycle of abandonment and the self-abandoning we do as well. All right, so when we are conscious of what our brain's driving inside of us, some of the things that we get a hold of is understanding love, all right, and the love addiction cycle. And once we understand that cycle, that's just one of the modules in it, we stop going back into relationships that are not healthy for us. They are not our best type of relationship, okay? So that was one of the things that I've done to help break the cycle of what went on with my health. The next thing that I've done, and I've done this for over 20 years now, is the course called My Authentic Self. Now, our lack of sense of self means we hide behind a mask. We need answers to who am I, why am I here, and that lack of sense of self leaves us with the definite answer of who am I, okay? Because our identity is wrapped up in our family and who we had to be to get through the trauma and dysfunction as we grew up. So then we are, obviously it's part of our brain, it has to develop, so we are left with, who am I? Why am I here? okay? Because as adults, we don't know that we have complex PTSD coming from my generation, okay? This is only been available in the last 5 years, is all this neuroscience, okay? So when we, sorry, I'm just going to keep going. I'm so excited about the fact that I'm not actually unwell today. That I keep going, oh, well, just think of the next thing. Okay, so the reason why we need to know who am I and why am I here is this combats anyone who comes along trying to tell us who we are and what we should be doing with ourselves and what we should be thinking, what we should be feeling, and what we should be doing with our life. Plus, gives us a healing journey to stop the triggers from reoccurring. Okay, so we can solidify this is who I am, all right? And when we can do that, nobody can come along and say, right, you need to go here, do this, think that. You know, we realize that we're allowed to ask questions. We don't have to follow what somebody else says. I need the internal knowledge of myself so I can say no, all right? We can learn to say no. It's actually one of the most amazing things when we learn to say no, because at first it scares the living daylights out of us. Well, it scared the living daylights out of me that I actually could learn how to say no, all right? So in the past, having someone attack me, I would have folded. So last night I was attacked in group by somebody who left just as quickly. And in the past, I definitely would have just, under the stress of it, I just would have fallen to pieces. And that's understandable. Or I would have come out fighting and neither worked to leave the person with their own stuff, okay? And that's the goal. We need to be able to sit in a space, hold space for ourselves so that both opinions can exist when somebody, you know, has a different opinion, that both things can be in the same space, because then we both walk away from that space having to deal with our own stuff, all right? And it is the most wonderful feeling when we can do that. I changed my self-talk yesterday around disconnection, and I went back to and affirmed I am safe to disconnect and I am safe to connect. It's the I am safe that will get us through so much, because it reaches back down into the primitive part of our brain that was wired that we're not safe, all right? And I can manage this. I can manage whatever happens. I know that I can manage this stress, this particular stressor that's coming at me. And we do that because we do our work so that our whole system is balanced again. Okay? That's right, Diana. Yes, agree to disagree. It's freedom on both sides of the equation. It's just so, so wonderful. Okay? And I have, on the weekend, I did up a Circles of Friendship graph. I'll just put it up here for the moment. One of these will just, I will post it down below. I don't know if I can do it from here, but we can try. So that you can sit, no, I can't. Okay, now part of the reason I had the strength last night to deal with somebody who was antagonistic is because of my circles of friendship. So we have 2 or 3 people that are around us, that are close to us, that know absolutely everything about us. They're trustworthy, and we operate in their lives the same. It doesn't mean that I'm the only person in their lives that does this for them. It just means I know in my life these are the people that I can count on with the deepest, darkest parts of me, okay? They're people that I can say, listen, this is what I'm working through. And I must admit, look, I share everything with you guys anyhow. But I know that there's a mutual space where we all deal with our own stuff. And the next 10 to 12 people around us, we're aware that they know about us, they know our lives, and we talk, but it may not be as intimate, as close as the first 2 or 3. And then there's everyone else. Now, it's all flexible. You get to determine, you know, how many people. This is just a general way of looking at it. So when we have this ingrained in us, so we work this into our internal life because we weren't taught any of this. And then what we do is when somebody who knows us, when somebody who doesn't know us starts saying things about us, then we go, well, they don't really figure in my circles of friendship, do they? So that's okay because they're going to move on and my life's not going to be impacted by what they think of me. And because of the abandonment recovery, I don't have to abandon myself because somebody has a negative view of who I am. It just doesn't have to happen. So I wanted to share all of this with you, and so that you could see the next morning that I woke up with a smile, even though yesterday was so super challenging, that it's possible for all of us to do this internal work and break the cycle of complex PTSD so that we can go in and be in group around, a worldwide bunch of people who are just wonderful to be around, who all have different experiences of complex PTSD, and we all do life together, okay? And one of the reasons I started the group in the beginning was so that we'd have a safe space where even if we're triggered, we know that we can come and ask for help because we're triggered, okay? We can own what's happening to us and build each other up. So I want to give you encouragement. Don't give up. The answers are there, and it's just looking for one next step, not trying to solve the whole puzzle all at once. We can't do that. Just being in group last night, I can already see one next step that I need to take. And that's what recovery is about, just our one next step, okay? Dana says it works. What you teach works. Thank you. Yes, you're more than welcome. And look, honestly, sharing your journey, Diana, over the last, I don't think it's quite a year yet, but you have been doing amazing work because you do the trauma-informed movement, you've shown up for masterclasses and a course and so much more. And we just continually are able to see our one next step. And it's been so, so precious to share the journey with you. I want to encourage you, whatever your health's at, if you've got lots of tummy stuff happening, I want to give you one very, very specific question to ask. When your tummy's upset, when your body's in pain, I want you to put your hand on your heart and I want you to ask, where do I feel afraid of the disconnect? Okay, so we close our eyes, put our hand on our heart. Where do I feel afraid of the disconnect? Okay, and I want you to be aware that I became aware yesterday when I was doing my riding at the gym that when all the stomach problems happen, it's trying to keep us safe from all the brokenness that happened to our heart from love. And what we need to do is not to keep going back over the past. We live it every day. What we need to do is continue to build love, in the experience of love into our lives. And I'm not talking about love as in romantic relationships. I'm talking about the love of life, the love that we can share amongst friends and connections to build our conscious awareness that we are building the experience of having a loving life. Now, the reason why we do this, if I can just get this up so I can articulate it clearly, we want to do this because the anterior cingulate cortex, okay, up here in the front somewhere in the middle, is the center of love in our brain. It keeps our thoughts and emotions in balance, and love actually fertilizes our brain. So we have to choose to let love in, okay? Let the experience of love begin to drive our lives, even though we haven't had a lot of experiences as a child. We choose to begin to build it into our life as an adult, and this is how we can begin to heal our brain as well. Charlotte just said, I've got to try the trauma-informed movement. as I see it working for you and others. It does. And it does because we had to close off so much of ourselves, and at the neurological level, when we're acting, we're in dissociation for starters, but when we're acting on our emotions and we're acting in that fawn response, the hypoarousal, we are literally acting out of survival mode all the time. So what it does is bring our conscious awareness back into now, and that we are safe to breathe. We're safe to take a breath in the now. And we are literally retraining our mind to be in the now, which is what we need. We need the reality of now. Okay? And as we build that experience of love inside ourselves and love of life, love for what we're doing, even just, look, I thought this morning, I need to start loving doing the washing and housework and everything again. There was a time when it was all just too hard, and then I went, no, I need to start building that appreciation that I'm able to do this back into my life. So it can be the simplest of things where we choose a conscious awareness of building it back into our lives. But remember, if love fertilizes the brain, that's our path to healing as well. Okay? All right, beautiful souls. I love each and every one of you, and above all and above anything else, remember, you are loved. Okay, have a most gorgeous day, and I will see you again tomorrow morning. Bye for now.